Good morning. This is Patrick at Qdabra Software, and I'm glad that we have some people here in our webinar this morning. We have been enjoying the summer. We are not in a place where there's rapids, but we thought we'd share this image with you because we're talking today about managing changes in your form, and we're trying to come up with a summer kind of theme for that, and the rapids seemed like the right one. Lots of changes happening, right? So we're tracking changes in your form. That's today's topic, is data change tracking part 2. We did the first version of this on May 13th, and I apologize for taking so long to finally get the second version up and running. But today we have a new technique. In fact, I'm so happy to introduce Kaudu Okamura, who many of you know. She has developed a technique. It's a new technique, so we love to do new things in these webinars. First, before we get started, I'm going to launch a quick, silly poll here to see if you're paying attention. So we have this question here about what do you think of Delta, and hopefully you can see this. It's just one question. That's it. Just to see if you're awake. Great. So we have some people actually answering it. Thank you very much. This is the variant is amongst us apparently, and requiring that we pay more attention to the spread of the people more than anything, because it's more contagious than the other one was by an order of magnitude almost. I think it went from 2.5 to, like, they're thinking somewhere between 7 and 9. So if you were scared before, you should be more scared now, but we're also tired of that. So how can we even contemplate? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for answering that quick poll. So with no further ado, then I'd like to quickly jump into these slides. Kaudu, can you hear me okay? I guess.
Yes. Okay.
It's because people are answering the poll. That's fine. We have audio. Thank you. So just want to quickly go through these couple slides here. Let's go to the next one. And we talked about part 1. Part 2 today is to cover change tracking, and this is data change tracking at the field level, but we're also going to show you how to do commenting. So if you have parallel reviews, let's say you have a form, I have to give thanks to one of our customers for inspiring this idea today. If you have a lot of people that need to review your form, but you don't necessarily want them to to be able to lock the form so that others can't edit it. So let's say you have a review process for a form, and there's a couple editors and they're passing it back and forth, but then you have a larger group of people that needs to actually comment on the form in parallel, so without having to lock other people out making changes. So we're going to show you that as well, and then we're going to talk a little bit about document level change history tracking. We're not going to talk about the character level stuff. This is kind of like the word style diffing at the character level. We did a webinar on this many moons ago, and we're going to redo it. So we did a diff tracking character level webinar using rich text controls. I want to say it was two years ago maybe. And I know one of you have seen it. Pete, you're here. Thanks for joining. So we're going to do this again with, I think, the similar technique as we did several years ago, but we're going to add it to the current form that you see in the demos. So stay tuned for that. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so to start off, field level change tracking, what is this? Well, we're trying to keep track of the edits done to the form. So let's say you're an emergency room physician and you're passing a form back and forth. Well, you need to know which doctor, checked off which medication to give the patient, right? For HIPAA compliance, whatever, to make sure that, if somebody makes a mistake, you know who it was. Maybe the doctors don't really want to know that, but we do have scenarios where we really need to keep track of every single edit done in the form. And, if we're tracking the data changes at a form level, on submit, you can certainly, keep all the versions of your XMLs, until since the beginning of time. But the problem is that it's hard to see what changed, because any one person could go in and make edits to multiple fields. So really what we're talking about here is actually in the form storing each edit. And we've talked about this before. We're going to show you how to do this, but the whole reason for this is to see what changed when at a more granular level. And Qdabra is going to show this really cool technique that she came up with. But first, let's do a quick demo.
Okay, thank you. So we are going to show two types of tracking in this demo. First one is field level, and the second one is the comment level. So let me just start showing the sample. So I am going to open one Qdabra form from here, and this has already some version, and I assign just clicking this field level to show the history like this. Oh, I opened the one with smaller history. Okay, excuse me then. Let me choose a little bit different one. 7 hours? Was this one yesterday? Okay, modified by. I think this is the one. Okay, like this. So this is the track record that Patrick first created this one as a testing on this date, and I modified this 2 times. And something like this, you can just click the label to see and click anywhere to hide. So this is a kind of overlay technique. And to modify here, so maybe I am going to reassign this to Patrick. And I am going to confirm this. Then, now we have one more record track on this one. So, this is about the field level tracking using overlay. And also one more technique we are going to share today.
Let's get some quick feedback. Was that cool or not? Is everyone there still there? Or are you guys completely working and busy and not able to pay attention? If anyone thought that was cool, please raise your hand. I think it was really cool. I think this is a great example of showing how we can augment your old InfoPath forms with new Forms Viewer, because Forms Viewer has CSS, and Qdabra is taking advantage of these techniques. So she's going to show you how in a second. But we had the floating labels before, and Qdabra, I don't know, maybe you can open a new one and show them the floating labels, because some people may not have seen the floating labels.
I see. Okay.
And so the floating labels was a really cool technique that we webinared. I want to say it was about a year ago. Anyway, we've done a lot of stuff with CSS.
Yes.
And this is, one of the advantages. I'm not sure why Power Apps doesn't have CSS.
Something like this. So yeah, this is floating table.
Yes, that's really cool. So as soon as you click into it, or as you hover into it, it automatically moves it to the top. And this is kind of a modern technique that you see on a lot of web pages. And we just decided to use the label as a place where the history would be. Okay, so thanks for those of you who raised your hand. There's a question. Hold on. We have a question, or maybe it's a comment. Let me just check here. Yeah, thanks, Pete. Yeah, it is awesome. I really appreciate your comment. Okay, Qdabra, sorry to interrupt.
Yep, thank you. So I will just show you later, but this is just a few lines of JavaScript and also, some CSS to adjust the positions. So let me move on to the comment, and in effect, this is use a little bit different style to show it. And if you click this comment one, this is show hide comment, and then also I can see the comment, who gave what kind of comment, like that. And in this case, you can add a new comment here, like comment and
I love the fact that it's rich text. Can you pull something maybe here?
Yeah, all right. Comment.
Maybe add some bullets.
Bullets too, okay. I make bullet and one more line. Then I'm going to save this. So you can see here as an rich text comment.
And you're saving all the comments to one area, right? So it's filtering it based on the field, right?
Yes, correct. Because in fact, this is a kind of repeating group, and for each repeating group, I'm going to filter with specific question. Well, index on this one. So this is filtered only on investigation or ID 2. This is filtering to ID number 1, and so on.
That's awesome. So what about the, how did you get the buttons, the pencil and the comment to be inside of the actual text field?
Okay, all right. That's the power of CSS. So this is on the form, and you can see this, and I put the name, or this becomes the class. So this is the trick that if you specify ScreenTip with my underscore blah blah blah, then this will be transferred to the class and the browser. So I can define this position as absolute position till this position, which means that this is a kind of overlay, and put this area on the left area on, and this is the right area inside of this field. And
so if you wanted to add like a new field at the bottom, like say,
like that,
you wouldn't have to do anything extra. You could just add it to the form and it would automatically show up with the buttons and everything, right?
Yes. First, add buttons, add the name of the section, and add CSS to control this.
Right, but if you're just going to add like a new field at the bottom, you don't have to do all that. You just add the new field, right?
New field for what? For new field for
like a new question, like a new text field.
Say. Yeah. Question is, this is because it's dynamic one, and you can add one more questionnaire here as a setting and a new value. Because not this one, in a dynamic items. So you can add one more dynamic item with specifying this label.
I see. So this is really useful for survey-like forms where you've got the same, you got things dynamically loaded. But what about for static forms? If they've got a form that has a lot of different fields in it, they're going to have to add this to every field, right?
Yeah, that's right. They have to add a kind of label to a section for everyone so that we can identify this is target to do certain things.
There's no way to get around wrapping everything within a section.
Yep. If every text is the target, we can just wrap everything. But what we need is we need a relationship with this level is connected to this section.
I see.
So this is, maybe we may check the next div section is this one, then we can write a kind of code. But the safe way is wrap one section as not one group.
I see. And you've got a little bit of code behind this, like JavaScript, CSS, right?
Yes. So that is, thank you for the great segue for this. So this is the kind of quick, technique. So when we opened this overlay, I have one big layer called my model background. And this is another one, my overlay section or something. And this is the code, just 6 lines in this case. And to read this one, if my field label is clicked, then add class on click to the nearest section of the group. and also add class overlays on body. So if body has no overlay on, this modal background is shown. Otherwise, this is just hidden. And also, if the section has overlay on, then we put this overlay section visible. And this is absolute position, and this is the Z index, which means that it's very in front. And if this big background is clicked, then we turn these flags off.
I don't see the my overlay section in the code below.
All right. Yeah. My overlay section, because this is controlled by CSS. CSS says if this has a class overlay on, then my overlay section is visible. Other than that, this is display none in
Okay, I guess
CSS.
you're going to show us the CSS next, right?
All right. One moment. So you would like to know everything? Yes, in fact, CSS is a little bit tricky, and we need to do various things to adjust tiny positioning. But let's see if overlay. Let's see. Yep. So this is overlay section. In general, of display is none for overlay. However, if the floating level section has an on-click class, then this display is blocked.
So that section between lines 92 and 95, that's the tricky thing.
1990. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this change, display none, will be changed to display block if the section has an on-click class.
Complete gibberish to me, but I used to be a developer. Great. So this is, and kind of, so if they're going to add this to their forms, obviously it helps to wrap fields and sections, which is a little bit of a hurdle. But in addition, they could just add this CSS and this JavaScript to their forms, and it wouldn't be, I mean, they wouldn't have to change the CSS, right? They could just still use that as is when they add it.
Yeah, if they use the same naming convention on these things.
Show me where you need to add that to the sections, right? So if you go back to the form in the designer,
Yep.
you're adding that overlay.
Hmm.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah,
So
you got
this
the
is
resource
overlays.
but in the view, actually, in the XSLT, you've got something where you're adding that overlay. Like if you right-click the section again,
Which
and
section?
go to properties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you right-click one of the sections, like the yeah, there's something in there that has there it is, right there, the screen tip.
Yep. So
the screen tip is what you're using as a trigger.
yes, a lot. And using the JavaScript, this is transferred into class, which makes much easier to write these
This is
kind
a
of.
technique that you've used before, I think earlier this year, right? With
Yes.
you've used this several times, maybe even last year. I think with the floating labels, we used it too.
Yep. There is no code inside here to change or to move this into class.
We got a question from Peter. Would this technique have to be tested in multiple browsers to see how they react to CSS?
Yes, that's better. That's a good practice as usual. And also mobile if you need to use mobile.
But we wouldn't expect it. We wouldn't expect it not to work. I mean, every modern browser should support CSS, right?
Yes, at this level.
Okay, hopefully that answered your question, Peter. So we don't expect it not to work, but it's always a good practice to test it in the major browsers that your team is using or users are using.
Yep.
So this is great, Kauda. So I guess that if we can go back to the slides for a second, let's just try to wrap this up here. So actually, let's show them where the comment section is, if you don't mind going back to the form. And I don't know if you tried this in Forms Designer or not. I guess we're just still using Path Designer for this. but there's nothing in here that wouldn't work in Forms Designer. You were just more comfortable in InfoPath Designer, is that right?
Yeah, as for I haven't tested, but yes, there is.
So,
We can do that.
if you go into the data source, let's just take a look at the comments again.
Yep.
So this, and this ideally we would package into some usable XML template part, like we've done in the past for other things. And if we look at the data source here, we look. She's got a comment submission group, and that's where all the comments are going. If you just expand that, just to show that it is. That's interesting. So it's not
This is the
repeating.
area to handle these kind of comment to be submitted.
I see. So that's only when you're submitting it. There's this one.
Yep.
Where are you storing the comments once they've been submitted?
Good question. So this is, which one? This is another SharePoint list that every comment is stored. So this is the form name, and also this is item ID, which corresponds to the which area, which question.
And then it queries that list and it actually filters. Does it query everything and store everything in the form, or is it just based on the item?
Yeah, I query only for the form name, the same form, then filter for each item ID.
I see. So it's just a secondary data source in your form. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay,
Just the secondary. One query just once on the secondary data, like this.
that's great. So let's go back to the slides maybe.
Okay. So next slide.
And I can see document level tracking. Yeah, right. So document level tracking is something that we've covered in the past, and this is really at the level of the submit. So whenever you save or submit the form, you're storing it a version in SharePoint or wherever you're storing it. Maybe it's in your database with our DBXL web service as the conduit. And whenever that happens, you can certainly have the user, you can require that the user enter a comment at that time. And then that comment would be stored at the document level. So you'd enter the date and time when they enter the comment, and then if the comment was blank, you wouldn't allow them to click save or submit. So you're kind of forcing them to add some comment when they submit it. And then that becomes just a row in the history group, which is in the main data source. So unlike what you saw earlier with the single comment there, you'd have a repeating group inside of a non-repeating parent group that would store your comments. And we've done this in past webinars. We call it change history. We actually have an XML template part on it. If you go to infopathddev.com, you can search for the change history XTP, and you should be able to find it. And if you can't, let us know. But this is another technique that is useful kind of at the workflow level when you're you want to kind of audit or show what happened, at a status. So like, let's say the form is open, it's new, they save it. Well, that's, now it's saved, and then they're going to submit it. They're going to say, okay, it's ready for review or something like that. And then somebody opens it up to approve or reject it. They reject it. You want them to be able to add a comment saying, hey, it's above the limit. We're not going to approve this expense, and so on. So you can add a comment there that reflects the reason why you're rejecting a form or the reason why you're moving the form to a new status. And this is often very useful, but it's a lot less work to do this than what we saw earlier with the field level change tracking. So if you're interested in this technique, do try to search infopathddev.com for change history, or just send us an email at the end. We are providing a free 15-minute consult for this this new technique that Qdabra has got, just to show you how to add it to your forms. Obviously, we'd be happy to help you add it as well. Okay, let's see. Is there another slide, Qdabra? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so we're here to answer any questions you have on that technique. We try to make these webinars short. We're at the 30-minute mark or the 25, depending on how you count. If you have any questions, now's a great time to ask them. And while we're waiting for questions to come through, let's go to the next slide. So just for those of you, I know I see a lot of familiar faces today. Thanks for joining us. I think you all have, I'm trying to think, I think actually you're all using FormsViewer. But there may be someone later who's watching this video on YouTube who wonders, well, what is FormsViewer? Well, FormsViewer is a part, it's one of the two pieces that go into Qdabra Forms, which we're offering to customers as a replacement for InfoPath. We have the only kind of as-is backward compatible replacement for InfoPath, and what that means is that you can take your existing InfoPath forms and with minimal effort, it's 2 to 8 hours per form, you can move them to the future, which you can move them to the Qdabra Forms app, which has now a Forms Designer piece as well, which we launched in April. The Forms Designer we're making a lot of progress on it. We are very close to feature parity with InfoPath Designer, but not quite. So we've had a little bit of a delay this summer. We had a couple resources get impacted. They actually got accepted to go to college in the U.S. visas, and so they took the opportunity to jump on the plane to come get their PhDs or work on them. So we're in the process of Jimmy's team is down a few resources. They're training the new resources, so we're trying to get the new version of Forms Designer out by September with the data connection editing in it. That's the main feature that's remaining. We've added a lot of features since the April launch. If you have not seen Forms Designer, I encourage you to take a look at it. We're going to continue pushing it forward, but we think it's going to be a great replacement for InfoPath Designer, and we're very close to sort of announcing the 1.0 version, which we're going to call as feature parity. You can use it to actually create forms and so on. So we should be able to use Forms Designer for the form that you saw today. We have a question from Joe. Does this technique work in repeating tables?
That is a great question. Thank you, Joe. I think, yes, we need to modify it. But still, I think we can apply similar technique for repeating tables. Maybe I first use the repeating section for the table and add columns that are needed. Maybe there might be 2 or 3. Oh, okay. Excuse me. So and also the technique may depends on the repeating table can be added in the middle or so on, or you can just add at the very end. So in case the order could be changed, we would get a kind of unique ID for each line to keep the track.
So you'd have to filter it on the group of the repeating element, right?
Yes.
And if you want to show it in line, you'd have a layout challenge.
Yeah, layout challenge is the thing. And
they could click on, if they click on the header though, they could see it, right? So if they click on the label in the header, maybe there's some way to do it based on that.
Right. Maybe we may add some icon on the left, or we may specify a specific place to click.
Yeah.
And also CSS need to be adjusted a lot. In general, yes, CSS adjustment would be mandatory if you would like to change the style a little bit. So,
but you think it would be doable to?
Doable. No.
Okay. And then the next question he had was, this is a great question actually as well. When you see that overlay, you're not showing any kind of header labels. Yep. Go back to FormsViewer and
yep. Okay.
Yeah, I see. Well, you can just show us maybe how to add them there.
Viewer or not there.
So yeah, when they click on one, he wants to see header labels.
Yeah, we can do that because just for the simplification, because it's really obvious. In this case, I removed, but you can add back the table header.
Oh, okay. Where would you do that? If you wanted to quickly add it and republish, can you show that real quick? I'm just wondering. Great questions, Joe. Thanks for being here. I know it's been a long time since we chatted. You must have been busy. I hope everything's going well in the Philly area. I think that's where you're located these days. So I was going to make a few changes to try to quickly show that, just to show you how easy it is, so that you know it's not smoke and mirrors as well. This is
allow user include header.
Yeah, do that first. Oh, wow, that's crazy.
But maybe because I once delete, I have to add
Right.
the back. This
Well,
is modified.
while we're waiting for Cal to make that change, does anyone else have any questions?
Modified
I did update the survey this week. I'm sorry about the last webinar.
by.
We did not update the survey. You blamed me for
Mhm.
that. And we had some questions from the previous webinar in that one. But this one today, I mean, it's just 4 questions. It's just silliness all around. But yeah, if you can quickly fill that out, we'd appreciate it. It's just you're going to update it and then show us this new revised version with the headers in it.
Okay.
And anyone else have any questions? Now's a great time. We're wrapping up here. And in terms of the next webinar, we've got a bunch of different techniques coming. And I want to also, I know Catherine's not here, but I want to just give a shout out to Catherine at Durham University, who has been an inspiration on these techniques, because she's kind of forced us to think about them. Wow, that was so fast, Cauda. That was awesome. Yeah. So great job. Yeah. So we are going to be looking. We've kind of taken a step back, looking at workflows. We've got this central flow solution. If you've got SharePoint Designer workflows, you need to convert them. We have a solution for you. We have not put a slide in this deck, but we've actually been talking about central flows over the last year. We started working on it. It's a solution that works with FormSeer both in SharePoint and if you have DB The SharePoint version is kind of the V1 of that. It works great, but if you've got lots of data, eventually the centralized lists get overwhelmed with the data, and you want to move it to a database, and that's why we have the DBXL version. There's also some benefits to the DBXL version for central flow, where you can have better WYSIWYG editor for your email bodies and things like that. So we're going to be talking about workflow again soon. Specifically, what kind of workflows do you see and I think the sequential serial, everyone gets the approve, reject kind of workflows, but there are also workflows where you have multiple people doing something when the form's at a current state. We call that a parallel workflow. And then there's also this kind of hybrid where you've got people commenting or voting on something. They're not actually editing the form, but they have to comment on it. So this one today is kind of moving in that direction. It's kind of showing you how you would do that. And the nice thing about this technique is that you could have multiple people open the form and add comments, and they can do that, and then they can just hit like a refresh button. We didn't show that today, but you can imagine a refresh button in that form that Cauda demoed that would requery those comments. Are you requiring the comments when they submit one, Cauda, or are you requiring the
Yes,
interface? You are.
after the submit, in fact. So
But they
if
have to
you,
submit a comment first before it
yes, in
requires.
this model.
Yeah, I gotcha. So I could open the same form, add a comment, and if you add another comment, you'd see my
Yep.
comment.
Then if I click there, then it refreshed.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to be doing some more webinars on that and sort of releasing what we call our DBXL version of Central Flow some point this summer. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Thanks again for joining. We'll get this up on YouTube, and if you have a minute to answer those 4 questions in the survey, we would very much appreciate it. I want to thank Cauda for this work. She did everything today. I'm just sitting here talking about it. Way to go.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.